Oh, that is an audible way to start, sir.
I really don't know how I feel about that intro. Deep breaths.
I love that ASMR energy right off the jump.
Oh no!
No, we're keeping that. That's a live read. We're not going back now.
I don't know if anyone knows this, but we don't edit our show. So like if shit happens, it sticks. Okay. Well, I just took the biggest breath known to mankind right in front of the microphone. Welcome, everyone. This is Woodworking is Bullshit, your favorite irreverent podcast all about creativity, art, and design. I'm your host, Paul Jasper, woodworker by day. No, scientist by day. Whoa, I always get those confused. Scientist by day, woodworker by night. And I'm joined by Eric Curtis, fine furniture maker and content creator, and Mary Tissayi. Woo! Marathon runner and
not full marathon.
Half marathon runner.
UX designer by day, and contemporary furniture heiress by night.
I love the heiress label that we really bestowed upon her. That makes me happy.
What a hot opening that was.
That is one of the nicknames and things that you guys have given me that I am actually okay with.
That feels right. That energy feels right.
What a hot intro that was. What a mess.
That was.
I would also like to point out Eric's dancing to the music, but on my video, you're kind of delayed, so it just looks like you're terrible with rhythm.
I mean, I am a Northeastern European white boy. Like dancing is not what we are known for. Drunkenly swaying. That's mostly, okay. And eating cheese.
Eric, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a scotch out of a glass that Mary got me for my birthday, which is a delightful little crumpled glass,
Japanese glass.
Rocks glass. Is it Japanese?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's for those who are listening, because this is an audio format. It's basically a frosted glass that looks as though paper has been kind of crumpled a bit. It's got that nice texture to it. And part of the reason I do like this glass is because I know how much joy it brings Mary to have an object like this. Like, this is the kind of shit that she gets her rocks off on. And
I got one for myself.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
I have the same one.
Yeah. You wouldn't get me a thing that you don't like.
Accurate, yeah.
All right, so if we can head into our topic of the day, part the kimono, as Eric likes to say.
By the way, I learned, so after that episode, I Googled it, because that's a phrase that just exists in my brain rent-free. And I don't think that it is offensive, but some people take umbrage with it. And I just want to clarify, I wasn't attempting to be offensive with that terminology. It was just a phrase that came out of my mouth.
Eric, are you starting this episode with an apology?
It's more, we'll say it's
more
a retraction. Yeah. But now let's part the kimono.
Let's part the kimono and get to it. So, Eric, that's terrible. So today's episode is about something that's equally terrible, which is stress and dealing with stress. And we thought what we're trying, I don't know if anyone's noticed some pattern into our topics, but we try to alternate between like psycho-emotional kind of topics, like dealing with imposter syndrome and the emotional side of things. And then we pivot to a more nuts and bolts worldly topic, like figured woods or a master series thing on Nakashima, something a little less, emotional, touchy-feely. And we seem to oscillate between these two. So today we're oscillating back to the more emotional side of things. And we thought stress is a good one, because who does not relate to this topic?
We all have those stressful moments, man, in and out of the shop. And also, just life is stressful right now.
That's for sure. So if you Google woodworking and stress, those two words next to each other at the same time, what comes up, which I did, obviously, what comes up is a whole bunch of results that say, well, woodworking is a great stress reliever. It's such a great thing to just get out and make something, you could consider art, and you can make a thing and you see what you made in
It's
front of
not
you.
wrong.
It's such a great stress reliever. But, well, I think for many of us, it can turn the page. I think many people listening, it's often a stress reliever, but I think all of us know it can turn the corner on that, right?
So I wonder, I think the majority of people listening to this podcast have been making things for a while. There may be some people who are just getting into it and they're like, let me dive in and find out what this dumb podcast is all about. And then they're surprised and confused. But I feel like the majority of people have been making things for at least some amount of time. And I can't help but wonder if the stress that comes from any endeavor that starts as a stress reliever is associated with the pressure that we put on ourselves, whatever form that pressure takes. It could be financial, right? Like you have a commission, like you start making things, you're like, oh, I think I'm kind of good at this. Then somebody wants to pay me to make, a piece that's just outside of my wheelhouse. And now I have to figure out how to do that. And you feel that stress. It could be temporal. Like now I have to figure out how to get a thing done before Christmas, and I don't know how I'm going to do that. It could be reputation, right? I've got a show coming up and I need to put this, I want to win that amateur award. And now all of a sudden it's not fun anymore because you're worried about the thing that's looming. So how much, like in that can happen in any number. Like if you hike to relieve stress and then all of a sudden you're competitively hiking, is that a thing?
You're hiking.
I don't know about that.
But you know what I mean? Like there is whatever, as soon as you put stakes on the thing, then the stress comes in.
Yeah. And I think for all of us, early on, it's probably a stress reliever early on. You're like, I just want to do something not in front of a computer, or I want to make something. Because like making things is not like from scratch is not that common today as it was in the 1950s or 1920s where they made everything. Everyone knew basic electrical. Everyone knew basic plumbing. Everyone knew basic making, with their hands. And today it's not like that. So I think so many people are just, Mary, sick as fuck of the computer, right? Like you just get me off this computer for a while and I just want to feel like a human again. And so I think many of us started that point. But then, as you said, Eric, there's so many overachievers in the hobbyist woodworking field, especially because they come from like highly technical, like whatever. There's so many overachievers in the woodworking field, it seems like these days, that as soon as they go into it, they double down. Like, I want to be schooled in machines. I want to understand, hand tool woodworking. I want to understand all the joints. And they have these like incredibly high standards that reimposes all of this stress again on what should be a joyful thing.
I can definitely speak to that. I mean, for me, a lot of it is because it's a hobby, because there's limited time. I then put stress on myself to make sure that I use that time as well as possible, as efficiently as possible. Whatever I do there, it has to be like, something that I am ultimately happy with, which we all know is just never going to be the case. But
that's a ton of pressure. Yeah. That's a ton of pressure, Mary.
It's a vicious cycle. Because it is my stress reliever. Woodworking is supposed to be my stress reliever. And then I get stressed about being stressed as well.
So all right. So you also run. You have other hobbies, right? Running is just the first one that comes to mind. And now you are training for a half marathon. So I'm asking genuinely, do you feel stressed about the upcoming race? And does that translate in any way to your mentality when you're running on a daily basis now?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I don't die, basically. Like, I'm very cognizant of the things that would prevent me from achieving that goal. One, my knees. So I want to make sure I take good care of them. I'm running out of speed and proper form. And so, like, always thinking about that isn't always great too, because the reason I usually hate running, but when I do enjoy it, it's because you get lost in the moment. You can just kind of like relax and let your brain and life just like glaze over.
That's called the flow state.
That is.
Yes.
Yep. Also known as a runner's high.
Yes, runner's high. Huge fan of that.
I'm gonna leave that joke on the table. Well, I guess
it's something I think about.
What I'm getting at is, do you know how to relax, buddy? Like, is there
That's a question that I think a lot of our listeners can relate to.
Well, that's why I'm sure, and that's part of the reason I'm asking it, because it's like you're saying I'm stressed about work, and so I turn to woodworking to relieve stress, and then I get stressed about designing and making the best possible object. So in order to avoid the stress of the wood shop, I go for a run, which I don't actually really enjoy running. But then as soon as I get into the flow of running, now I'm going to decide to do a half marathon, and now I'm thinking about how my body is reacting to the 13.
Such is the plight of the overachiever.
I feel like I'm in therapy right now.
So, Mary, coming back to your childhood.
I think that something that I do realize is that I really enjoy making myself physically exhausted at the end of the day. And that is the feeling that I love when I'm in the shop for X number of hours straight. And I am so tired that I get home, I shower, and I lay on the couch. I'm like, this was such a good day because I am so tired. And I think I get that. I get that same thing through exercise as well.
I think that's a thing. I feel the same way. And I think that is a thing that those of us with overactive brains need in order to unwind, right? Like, otherwise, realistic, without getting too dark, like the other options are copious amounts of drugs to stop the brain from working, because you can't shut it off. And the best way to shut it off is to make your body and consequently your brain so physically tired that it can't be overactive when you need sleep.
And it's probably a trend that is happening more and more now because you're constantly being stimulated mentally. Like, there's so many screens. The younger generations, their attention span is shrinking as well. Like, you're just kind of ingrained culturally in your life that you should always be thinking about something. You always be watching, and then it becomes a habit that you just don't realize and you can't kick it. So when was the last time you sat on the couch and you didn't look at your screen, you didn't
today
think about anything for 10 minutes? Because I can barely think of when I do that except after exercising.
I do it routinely, but I don't have that overactive brain thing you described. So
really,
yeah,
that's a little bit surprising.
No, I have a quiet mind usually. And so I can take a minute in this 7-degree weather in the middle of November to sit on my porch and just have 5-10 minutes of quiet and just reflect. Yeah. I would love it if my head was silent. It's not. There's intrusive thoughts always,
Sure.
I would just love a bit of quiet. But if I could take a step back now, we've sort of, sort of tickled the ivories about, stress and a little bit of how we feel about it. But I want to give some structure to how we handle talking about this. So we're going to handle this in a 3-part structure. The first thing is to talk about what stresses you out. And I think the three of us are going to have different answers. And I think that's awesome because the listeners may relate to one person's answers or another. Okay. And the second is, what did it do that was negative to your life? What does it do to you? Why should we even care about stress? Is being stressed all the time okay? Let's play devil's advocate. Let's say, oh, what's the big deal? I'm stressed all the time. So what? So let's talk about what stresses you out in particular. All three of us will take a turn. What effects does it have? And then we're going to talk what to do about it, both from a sort of we're going to do it round robin, and both from a very typical answer point of view, but are there any really specific niche answers that help you? And maybe the listeners will relate to one or the other. So let's start with what stresses you out. Eric, why don't you go first? What stresses you out? You seem cool as a cucumber, to be honest. So let's start with you.
Well, if you are both two of my closest friends, you both know there's a lot of things that stress me out. But in the shop specifically, if we're taking my love life off the table,
why would we want to do that? Let's part that kimono quick.
Ooh, that's a dangerous. I'm gonna veto that. So I think the thing that stresses me out in the shop, in my work, is expectations. And that could be my own expectations. That could be the expectations of a client. That could be however you want to voice expectations, right? But the idea of there is a person expecting this exact thing, X, and I need to deliver X and I don't know how to deliver X, I've never done it before, is a thing. Like, that's when I catch myself in a lie of saying like, oh, I can do that for you, but I don't actually know how to do it. That's when I get that knot in my stomach of like, I don't know how to move forward. I don't know what to do in this situation. And I don't know how to then call them and say, I lied. I can't do it.
Have you ever said that?
Not those words, but I've pulled out of commissions for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
I just pulled out. Well, it's also like so I just recently pulled out of a commission. I'm working on one. I've got one after this. And then originally I had another one in line before I closed the books down. And I decided that I couldn't do it. Like, I just didn't want to do it. There's a lot going on. Like, there's other things that I need to focus my energies on. And I ended up having to contact that client who had been patiently waiting for months. And basically what I said was, look, I can't do it. I'm not in the right headspace to do it. I don't want to make the thing for you, and it's going to end up disappointing both of us. But the articulating that to the client was a stressful thing to approach, because they've also been waiting for 6 months for me to start this thing. And then I had to be like, I'm not going to do it for you, you know? And that just makes you fucking feel bad.
Yeah.
What made you so convinced you couldn't pull it off?
It's not that I couldn't pull it off technically with that one. I recognized that I wasn't going to be able to fully invest in it, and I knew it wasn't going to be my best work, and I didn't feel right about charging them the price point for something that I felt like I would just deliver for the sake of delivering.
Got it.
You know?
Okay.
Would you ever consider like a lower price point and just like getting it done?
No, because then it's not, because then nobody wins.
That's not Eric's style.
No.
All right, Eric, that's a great answer. Wow, that's great. Mary, what stresses you out about the shop?
Also, first off, I'd like to say Eric said the word I pulled out so many times. And
you are a child, and I don't want to hear a single fucking person chastise me for the use of open the kimono after she's out here going pull out, pull out, pull out.
Oh my God, Mary, you did not just say that.
It was.
How are those running gummies hitting, buddy?
You know we don't edit this show, right?
Oh, please. We've said so much worse. Eric has said so much worse.
Wow, all right. So, I mean, I wasn't going to throw myself under the bus, but...
Anyway, okay, what stresses me
Anyway. I can't wait for us trying to force Mary to listen back to this episode, because that will stress her out. This is going to be great. And then we remind her that she made dick jokes. Carry on.
So what stresses me out is that I am a really impatient person. I don't like things being done slowly. I want things done as quickly as possible. So when I see that something is taking me a really long time to build, for example, a bookcase I'm doing, it's taken like 3 months because I just literally have not had the time. But that stresses me out so much, because I like working fast. I like getting things done and like moving on to the next project. That I think has been one of the most stressful things. As I mentioned before, like not having. Yeah.
Question. Is the fact that you like moving fast and getting to the next thing, does that inherently imply you have more of a focus on the achievement of the final product as opposed to a daily enjoyment of the process?
Yes, 100%.
She's like, yes, I am a sociopath.
Well
Next
aware
question.
Of.
Okay, because I feel like, I resonate with what you're saying, but once I was able to recast my brain into just like I love being here. I love every minute of this. I don't even think about the final product. All I think about is like what today holds for me, and I take it slow and I enjoy like the moments in the shop, or I
The
try to.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but that's not how you're wired. It seems like you're more you drive more enjoyment from the finished product.
I think so.
Which is fine.
Yeah, that's
Which is
always been the
totally
case for
fine.
me.
Okay. I mean, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some times where I do enjoy. Yeah, there are times where I enjoy the process. It's just when it becomes so stretched out for me, I get super impatient with myself.
Question: do you find yourself from time to time in self-critique and critique of past works aside, do you find yourself from time to time reflecting on the pieces that you've made, or looking around your house at some of the objects that you've made in that house and find comfort in their existence? Do you feel, whether or not you think they're good pieces, that's a different question, but do you feel a sense of like when you say the thing that brings you stress relief is the accomplishment, do you feel that same sense of relief when you reflect on past accomplishments?
Yes, I think so. Like when I look around my house and I see all the pieces I've made, it does make me it does make me happy to see them because I'm proud that I did it. I mean, I might think that there's different decisions I could have made, etc., but
Sure, but that's a different conversation.
yeah, that's a different thing. But yes, I think so.
Mary, when you look at
Yeah.
Hobbit Door,
Why do you
what do you
ask?
think? Mary, when you
Sorry?
look at Hobbit Door, what do you think to yourself?
Uh, what do I think to myself? It brings me joy.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. Great.
Well, so that's why I'm at. So I there have been a couple of times in very topsy-turvy, turbulent moments where I think the reason I'm drawn to furniture, or I know at least part of the reason I'm drawn to furniture, is the tangible reality of the thing. And like it's here, it's like I made the thing. It can't just disappear into the ether. It can't be taken away. Like this thing exists. And there is there's an anchoring in that knowledge that like at some moments in years past where it's like I'm lost in the anxiety and the confusion of like shit is upside down right now. And then I look around and I'm like, oh, there's tangible proof of the things that I've accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a paper trail of what I've been doing with the last 15 years that shows, number one, I've done anything with the last 15 years, and two, that there has been a pattern of growth. So I guess what I'm asking is like, when you have those moments and like the thing is done and you feel that stress relief, does that stress relief, like, does kind of the sanctity of the object matter, or is it just the moment of getting it done? And then after that, the object has no value.
Yeah, I don't think so for me. I think it maintains its value in my mind. It's obviously easier when it's like in your own house and you're seeing it, as opposed to and like you see it every day and you interact with it and actually use it, as opposed to like something that you send off to a client. I mean, I'm still proud of that too, but yeah, I mean, I would agree with that 100%.
That's a good question, Eric. About like, is it more like in the moment, or is it like a constantly renewing joy that, you know, for the rest of your life as you use it and see it?
Yeah.
For me, the stress in the shop comes from when I get a backlog of promises. I have commission after commission after commission after commission, and it starts piling up.
Mm-hmm.
And what started as a hobby, was this? You got to pull out.
You son of a bitch.
What started as a hobby to bring me joy is now like, there's a wedding present followed by a graduation present followed by another wedding present. And if these don't come through, someone's life, it will be meaningfully impacted. How do you tell someone, I don't have your wedding present ready?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like that kind of pressure is like oh my God. Right. And Eric, to your point, I don't even know what some of the designs look like for these because we haven't fleshed it out yet.
Yeah.
It's in the moment. So when I see these things kind of building and building and building, and I start to get really stressed out. And then on top of it, if the shop is a disaster, which it usually is, on top of that,
I can attest to that.
I'm just like, I go in there and I look around and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, where do I even start?
Yeah.
What do I even work on first? My mind is like a blur of like things I have to get done. That's very stressful. And so, yeah, for me, it's usually a backlog of commissions and promises because I know people's lives would be impacted if I don't deliver. And I've never not delivered. So far, so good. It's been 20 years. So, but still, it brings me a ton of stress.
Have you ever been disappointed with a piece that you made because the deadline was just so, and it was good enough, but you wish you had more time?
No.
Really?
I know it's a weird answer. No, I've always ponied up the effort, even if it meant long nights.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. No,
that wasn't me questioning.
Your it's a
work
great
ethic,
question.
But
no. It's a great question.
For me, and I think similarly for you, part of the stress of that backlog is we know in the way that we work, a thing could take a month or it could take 3 months because the getting it right is more important than the getting it out the door.
Right.
And so when you have 6, 7, 8 commissions in a backlog, you're like, holy shit, I don't know if this is a year of work or if it's 4 years.
So Eric, good point. So you know what I do? I think with commission work, I very much scope out the design with the client at the time so that when it comes time to make it, I'm not out adrift at sea, like wondering, oh, what the fuck do I do? I leave those really speculative, crazy projects for myself. I don't promise those to customers on timelines.
So you know that they'll like it at the end.
Right. With myself, I'm like, who the hell knows how long this will take? The skull cabinet, which I just finished after a year and a half. I decided not to sell. I couldn't even sell it. I love it so much. It's in my dining room. I can't sell it. Which is rare. I normally never care about selling anything. I like, oh, whatever, it's fine. I was thinking like, I can't sell this. I don't want to never see this cabinet again. I'm just, fuck it. I'm keeping it. All right. It's that simple. Yeah.
By the way, if you don't make a reel of like the overall building of that piece and it's not set to like some strong 2000s emo music, like friendship over.
I know I have to.
Like welcome to the Black Parade as you're laying that inlay.
But to come back to your question, Eric, I think I've learned not to promise highly uncertain projects to customers anymore. Like when we talk about it, it's like set design.
Do you set a time minimum or minimum for how long they have to request it?
No, I just if it's too close, I just tell them sorry, I can't do it in that time. Okay. And then if it's reasonable, I'll take it. I guess there's one exception. Recently, a good friend of mine from college requested a box for his lady friend, and it's pretty speculative. I don't exactly know what's going on, but he's also an artist. He was a professional musician for 20 years playing bass in jazz groups, so he understands the creative process deeply. And he's like, look, I don't care about timelines, I just want it to be right. So with him, I could be like, okay, I'll take it. I don't know what this is going to look like, and we've been going back and forth with drawings for weeks and weeks, on and off. And I know he's okay with that because he's a fellow artist. So with a fellow artist, I could leave it more uncertain.
It's also not like a date oriented thing, like a wedding or a birthday or anniversary.
Correct. Right. Yeah. And he's like, I want it right. I don't want it on the timeline. And I was like, wow, that's something an artist says.
Yeah. It's a great client.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword though. I feel like it could get too in the weeds sometimes.
It could, but I'm more practical than that. Yeah. All right. So now that we talked about what stresses us out, briefly, because we have to get to what to do about it. I think that's what everyone cares about. What effects does this stress have on you?
When I know that I'm hyper stressed when I wake up in the middle of the night on a regular basis.
Oof.
Like when I don't sleep, and sometimes it's like I can't shut it off and I can't fall asleep, but more often what happens is like I'll get to that point like Mary was talking about earlier of physical exhaustion and I pass out, and then I'll wake up 3-4 hours later. And I know, like, there is just that sense, like, as soon as I open my eyes, I'm like, there's no more sleep in me tonight.
Oh, really?
And like, yeah, like there'll be times where I'll like go to the shop at 4 o'clock in the morning because it's just like I know that I'm not going to sleep anymore, so I might as well go. There's no use in me sitting in bed avoiding the stress, so I might as well go confront it.
Wow, Eric, that's hardcore.
I mean, there's worse ways I could spend my stressed out hours in the middle of the night. Sorry, Mary.
What?
Oh God. Okay.
We'll leave that one up for interpretation.
What?
Oh man.
So what do you guys do?
I'm still reeling from that joke. Mary, do you want to go next or shall I go?
You go.
Okay. All right. What does stress do to me? Well, yeah, I get stomach aches. There's a very specific stomach ache I get. It's not like a general stomach ache. It's like a very particular spot along the top. And it's a stress-related stomach ache. And I know it because it's got a unique location. It starts with the stomach ache. I don't feel joy. I don't feel gratitude and appreciation. It all evaporates. All that like good stuff I feel most every day just to be alive and living this wonderful life I have. Like it all evaporates. I don't sleep well. I wake up at 3 a.m. usually, and I'm up till about 4:30, and I'm playing on my phone because I will go back to sleep eventually, but I'm like up in the middle of the night. And also as I'm going to bed, my mind is racing with stupid thoughts, like totally stupid thoughts, like not realistic, like fear thoughts as I go to bed, and it's racing, which is not normal for me. I hardly ever do that. And then if I get in the shop, I just have this feeling of like overwhelming, like oh God, where do I even start? And I put my head in my hands and so yeah, it's like a little bit of sleep, a little bit of physical symptoms like stomach ache for me. Mary?
I have a hard time focusing because the stress is paralyzing for me. So I'm like constantly distracted by things really easily. If I see something on my phone, like I'll automatically start go look at it, and like notifications come in. I like am constantly looking at it, and I can't bring myself to focus on the task at hand.
That's good.
That's it just becomes so paralyzing for me because I'm so stressed out.
Mary, the checking your phone, I notice I do that. I check my phone and 15 minutes evaporates and I didn't even realize I checked my phone. Or I stress eat. I'm looking in the refrigerator and I'm not even hungry.
So I've been known to stress eat too. And when we were filming the show, there was I was at the tail end of a bad relationship at that moment, and there was a joke in the house. We all lived together where they knew that if I was eating carrot cake, that like they needed to check on me emotionally.
Oh, no. Carrot cake.
It just happened to be available in the neighborhood that we were living in.
Next time you visit, I'm going to have a carrot cake for you.
I'd just be like,
oh wait, I was
eating carrot cake on the kitchen counter.
Well, I was telling someone about this yesterday, or a friend of mine, about how how there's the oyster place near us. Whenever I have a particularly stressful day, I just go get a bunch of oysters and sadly eat them in my kitchen. So they've become my like go-to.
Aren't those aphrodisiacs, Mary?
Maybe that's why.
All right. Oyster Fest. All right. So with that, we talked about the effects of the stress, and now what are you gonna fucking do about it? So we thought rather than just going through a boring list, we would go round robin, and we would hold each other accountable. Like, you name what you do to help your stress, and the other people are going to be like, yeah, I do that, or oh man, I really should do that. Let's have some accountability here. All right.
Okay.
Who would like to go first?
Wait, sorry, what was the question? Like what
do you do to handle the stress? Yeah, like what are your solutions for stress?
Remember when Mary was just like, when I'm stressed, I avoid, I can't focus. Sorry, what were we talking about?
Did that just happen? Eric, did that just happen?
I think she's out here checking her emails. I try to be mindful to exercise most days. Yeah, like either go for a walk. I go to the gym usually 4 times a week. Go for a hike, like whatever the thing is to like not only get outside of like my house and the shop, but also make my body move, raise my heart rate, et cetera, something that requires physical exertion.
Exercise. Eric, how many days a week do you exercise?
Depending on what you qualify as exercise, I mean 5 to 6.
Good boy. Mary, do you exercise?
Yeah, I exercise almost every day. Well, I give myself 1 rest day a week.
Okay, Eric, you're going to the gym or walks and stuff, and Mary, you're running.
Yeah,
I run and I strength train.
Wow, good for you, boy. You guys are better than
in that booty fitness camp.
Booty. I exercise, but it's more like 2 days a week because it's beach volleyball, and so like, you got to have a group of people together in a net and all that.
Yeah.
But when I do, it's like 2-3 hours at a time. Sometimes 3 days a week. Otherwise, I'm in the shop. Enough, but it definitely helps. Yeah. Eric, that was your answer. Mary, so exercise. Mary, what's your next answer? Go ahead.
I clean. I think that it helps me feel like a sense of accomplishment, and I know for a fact this is the case for a lot of people, especially in the shop too. Like the shop can get so dusty and dirty, and like when you see it clean and sparkly, you're just like, oh, it feels so good.
Before we came on, my wife was like, mention cleanliness because she loves everything being clean.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not a clean I'm not like a sort of clean, like my shop gets pretty messy sometimes.
It's pretty wild in there.
And then I reach a breaking point. I'm like, this is causing me stress. And then I clean it, and then it's clean for a few months. So I have a complicated relationship.
You got
with
a cycle,
but there's something to that.
Everyone has different thresholds of like the amount of messiness they can handle.
Yes, mine is low, and my wife's is high. So you can imagine that we never fight about that. Eric, how's your cleanliness?
My house is usually pretty clean. I keep it pretty clean. I think this is the trauma of sharing a room with my brother for the first 15 years of my life, who is one of the dirtiest people I know. Like, even now, his house is like, there's just shit everywhere.
Oh my God.
And I can't live my life like that. So my house is pretty clean. But the shop does get, like, it will get chaotic messy periodically, like especially when I'm like knee deep in a thing and I'm just really trying to get a thing done. I'll let it get messy. That doesn't bother me. But then there are those times where, like, first, I can't let it remain messy for too long. But then, Mary, to your point, if I'm feeling stressed or like I can't focus on a thing and I need to get back in the flow of being in the shop and doing a thing and accomplishing a thing, usually my go-to is cleaning. Like, I will just take 30 minutes to an hour and just clean shit up. Or like the other day I got back from Switzerland, and there was just the detritus of working on this cabinet was everywhere. And so I took the afternoon and like made a new cleat for the saws I got, and like stored all of the finishes away and moved things around so that I could get back into a headspace where the only thing that I had to focus on was the work in front of me.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great answer.
It's so hard too, like when you're in your own shop, because when I was in a shared space, I felt
you gotta
bad
keep it
and I
clean.
had to clean every single day, every time I used it. But now I'm like, oh, it's so easy to just like leave it.
Yep.
All right, so we have exercise and we have cleanliness. All right, so my
Paul?
turn. When I'm stressed, the thing that helps me most is to not think about the entirety of what I have to get done and just pick one fucking thing, shut everything else out and do the one thing.
Yep.
Because the more I think about all the 100 things I have to do, the more paralyzed I get and I do nothing. If I just think about one thing, I get that one thing done and I feel so much better. So it's like focus down, pick a thing, get it done.
Do you Is that thing usually something that's like super easy and achievable?
No. I tend to pick the hardest thing first because I know I do not want to leave that for last. So pick one thing and it's usually the most difficult thing.
I very much fall into that. Like I absolutely do that. I don't have a preference for easy or hard thing. Like it's just the next thing. And it's usually like the example I'll give is like during the pandemic and everybody was stressed and like that was when the road trips began. And the first goal was just get to Denver. And it was like, well, how do I get there? I don't know. I'll fucking figure it out. Like I'll get as far as I can the first night, and then I'll wake up the next morning and figure out how far I can get the next day. And like the starting of the thing. And then that, then looping around and going different places and seeing different things. But it's if I can get to the next place, then the place afterward will reveal itself, and similarly in woodworking. If I can
the same.
If I can get the fucking thing veneered, then I can figure out what joinery needs to happen after that. And sometimes that means that you do a thing and you go, it would have been more convenient if I had done this later or earlier, but you can still figure out a solution because at least you're then getting something done.
Got it. Mary? Do you do that?
Yes, to a point, but I go a little more than that because, this was going to be my answer for the next round, but it's fine. What I like to do is make a list and like have things that I can check off. And for me, that first thing is the first thing I can do. So then I can move on to the next thing and the next thing. And it just feels good to be able to like check things off.
That accomplishment, chasing that accomplishment dragon.
Yes.
Yep. I was talking to my wife about that before as we were having drinks before the show. She's like, I make lists. And she's like, and I put easy shit on the list just to feel a sense of
big list, check.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I make lists too. Like I have a weekly to-do list, and the first thing I do on Monday morning every week is I just write down what I need to accomplish on each day and how I need to get shit done and where my meetings are and everything else, so I don't get lost. But the reason I do that is not to feel the sense of accomplishment. The reason I do that is because I know the way I work, as we were just talking about, of like getting to the next step. Sometimes you accidentally go down 3 or 4 rabbit trails at a time, and then all of a sudden you're going 90 degrees to where you should be going rather than following the path straight. And so the list actually helps me stay on track rather than helps me gain momentum.
Great. Okay, so we've heard exercise, make lists, focus on one thing, and I'm forgetting one. Clean. Okay. Eric, you're up next. What's next?
Sometimes what I'll do is actually, I was going to use a different example, but what I will say, because it is basically the same thing. Small projects, like do a thing that I enjoy doing.
That.
Set it aside for a moment.
Make a thing.
Make a thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the thing is. And the thing I was going to say first is related to this. Is like sometimes I'll just do a small menial task that's related to like hand tools, right? Like today I went in, I didn't have a lot of time. I know I need to focus on this thing, but my mind is distracted by the geopolitical goings on of the country at the moment. And so I just went in and sharpened up my tools. That's all. Just like a thing to set things in order. I guess that's kind of related to cleaning. But the small projects are really there as kind of a creative release and an ability to feel that sense of accomplishment that Mary was talking about before.
All right, Mary, you and me, do we do small projects to get us back on task?
I used to not, but lately I have been because it's just easier. That's Eric's influence, I guess, coming off.
Yeah. You're welcome, buddy.
I do it too, and I do it in context of my house, like home renovation. Vicky's been asking for something, and I haven't gotten around to it, but it'll only take a half hour, 20 minutes, get it done. Yeah. All right,
Mary.
Mary had list making.
Well, I have another one too.
Okay, go ahead, Mary.
Okay, I have one that I wish I did more, and I say this because I know Eric's gonna be like, bullshit.
Bullshit.
But I think it's worth noting for our listeners is saying no.
Oh, Mary.
Eric just cackled so hard.
Mary, you say no in that you're a naysayer. That's about as much as you say no, dog.
I know. I'm well aware of this, but I do think it is important to reducing stress and knowing your boundaries. I have a hard time with it, and I'm not saying that it's easy, but saying no is really important to reducing that.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, they say every time you say no to something,
an angel gets its wings. That is what they say.
You're passively saying yes to something else.
Okay.
At the same time, when you say no to a request for a commission, you're saying yes to a project you've always wanted to do instead, or something else. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, that's really a powerful way to conceptualize it.
Yeah, I've been at work. They take it. Well, I guess I shouldn't bad enough.
Nope, too late.
There's just there's a lot of projects, and because I work quickly, often I get asked to do things. And lately, I've just been like, I'm so burnt out. Nope, none of this is happening. No. Like, I'm passing this off to other people. So, it's a work in progress.
All right, Eric, how's your no?
Oh, I love telling people no.
He literally just told us how I pulled out.
I don't. Oh no!
I am very aware that the act of making things is a thing that I fell in love with, and I want to honor that and continue to be in love with it. And there are lots of times people will ask me to do a thing, and I'm like, for lack of a better way to say it in this moment, like, it just that has zero interest for me, and I'm not going to waste my time doing that. Like, there's no engagement in the thing, so no, I'm not.
Yep, I say it too. I say no to a lot of commission requests, and I'm not as big of a dick as Eric to be like, this has no interest for me.
Listen, on air maybe, but off air.
I'm just kidding. But what I'll say is, like, I don't think I'm the best person to do this project for you right now. And if I think of someone, I'll let you know. They appreciate that. Okay. So Mary says, say no more. My next is try to practice gratitude and appreciation. And this is a daily thing because it's not easy. It doesn't just happen. You don't just wake up and just feel this overwhelming sense of gratitude in your chest, right? It's like I have to take a moment every day and think about, like, look around me, right? I see the beautiful colored leaves and I see the sunlight, and I realize my body is like great. Like, I don't have any aches or pains, and I can go into the shop, and I have all these friends and this family. And like, I just try to take a moment to like recenter myself, forget the stress, forget all the deadlines and all these details. Fuck all that. Fuck all, right? Just like it's like you take a desk and you just sweep everything off it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, oh, what a beautiful life this is. I don't know how many more years I have. I'm about 50, so I got like 30 left. ish, 30, 35, right? And so like, do I want to spend those remaining years stressed out? No.
Yeah.
I want appreciation. I want gratitude. I want to feel that like good, warm feeling in my stomach about my life and my choices. So I try to practice gratitude every day. And if I'm not feeling it, I try to take a time out with no phone and just like sit on the porch and just like get my headspace right. And that helps the rest of the day.
Putting the fucking phone away is big, man. Like that's really, really important. I think some of us, I feel like many of the folks listening could probably relate to this, is like, I don't verbalize to myself inwardly about moments of gratitude or joy, right? Like they exist certainly, but they're more moments that like, I don't often clock them as like, this is a moment to reflect with gratitude. It's just like, I'm sitting on my porch and the sun is shining. It's November and it's 70 degrees. And you can either be like, holy shit, the world is burning, or you can just take 3 minutes out of the, you've got the 23 and change other hours of the day to worry about the world burning. You can just sit there for 3 minutes and think, it's 70 degrees. Like I can sit on my porch and drink a cup of coffee and appreciate the sunshine. And this was going to be my next point, but the way that I think that I often do that is through practicing silence rather than practicing gratitude necessarily. Cause like the putting the phone away, like getting actual earbuds or headphones that don't have Bluetooth or any other connectivity in them, and just like putting them in and focusing on my work for a couple hours and allows me to be present, that sets aside all of the other stressors because it's not right there. Like the phone isn't dinging every 30 fucking seconds with a new text message, or you're not listening to a podcast about how the world is in shambles. Like it's just you and the work and the doing of the thing, and the thing that presumably you started doing because you loved it.
Yeah, I definitely do that. Right before this, actually, I realized I had been listening to audiobook while driving, listen to audiobook and music while running, listening to something, and there's just always something going on in the background and it's something that I've gotten used to too. Like even at night, I like having a background show on. And then I was like, I have had something in my ears this whole day.
Yeah.
So then I just
Mary,
sat
that's
down and did
exhausting.
laundry in silence.
Yep.
And like my first instinct was to go to my phone. Like, what can I put on while I'm folding laundry? But I was like, no, I've literally been listening for so long. Like, I need to just do this in silence.
Yep.
Mary, there's something to that, right? It gives your brain a chance to just rest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like a
exhausting.
different form of rest. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's like we're exhausting ourselves by like a million little heroin squirts a day of like some kind of dopamine. And it's so exhausting that you can't recover your dopamine levels because you never have silence. You never have a minute of downtime.
And I do also want to say, for anybody listening who feels maybe overwhelmed at the idea of practicing silence right now, you don't have to do an hour of silence off the jump. Like often what I'll do when I feel myself in that moment of like, I'm overstimulated because I've done nothing but listen to music and podcasts for the last 27 hours. Like I'll just be like, all right, I'll set a timer for 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And like, that's it. And I put my phone in a different room. And when it goes off, like, then that's fine. Then I can choose
like do an activity.
Yeah, like whatever
when I was
it is.
Laundry, when I'm done.
Right.
Then
Well,
I'm
yeah,
like,
I don't often go sit and meditate, but like whatever the thing is, I'm washing dishes in silence, going for a walk, like walk 7 blocks down and back without your phone and just sit there with your thoughts,
I love
that
it.
Those moments don't take a long time.
You guys are speaking my language. I love this shit. I love all of that. I'm like, let's do it right now. Let's stop the show, and I'm gonna go for a walk
Turn off
in the
this
dark.
fucking podcast.
Are there any more major answers you'd like to mention?
Hand tool work always seems to reset me and remind me of the thing that I initially fell in love with. And so while like it does come up in my regular work often, but there are times when if I need to feel re-inspired or at least get back in the flow of a thing, often my go-to is hand tool work, because there's just something about it that draws me in. That doesn't have to be your thing, but there's so something visceral about it that it is my thing. Yeah.
It's like you in nature, like you're taking just like in your own hands, you're taking this piece of metal or wood and you're shaping a piece of nature, right? Like one tiny shaving at a time. It just seems so visceral, all of it. Like with your strength, you're using your arms. It's not like pushing it through a machine per se, and the loud and all the metal, it's just so quiet and really calming. I totally get that answer.
Yeah, one last answer for me is, as much as I'm an introvert and it stresses me out, but socializing, it gets you in a different mindset.
That was Mary. I was going to say that, talking to my friends. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. It gets you into a different mindset and it distracts you from your stress. So when you come back to it, it feels like it's something more achievable that you can tackle. So yeah, I think that's essential.
So I know many of the listeners were like, oh, the podcast. We have a podcast, right? We chose to do this podcast. Well, we chose to do this podcast because the three of us love talking about this shit.
Yep.
And we thought, if we're going to be talking about it, why not record it?
Yeah.
And I always feel fabulous after I talk to the two of you.
Yeah.
It's great. I just feel connected. I don't know. It's just wonderful. And that's exactly what Mary's describing. And by the way, this podcast, the point wasn't to have a podcast. That was never our intention. The intention was to talk about the things that we enjoy talking about, design and all these issues we've, ferreted into topics. But we thought, if we're going to be doing it anyway, if we're going to be talking about this, why not record it and release it? So that's how this podcast came to be, for those of you who may not know. And that speaks to Mary's point.
Usually a lot more inappropriate jokes, though.
Yeah. and surprisingly more profanity. I don't know. Sometimes.
How can that be?
I don't know.
How can that be? I have two more. Eat better and sleep. Try to sleep routinely. If I'm only getting 6 hours a night, no bueno. I could do it for one night in a row, but 2 or 3 nights in a row of 6 hours, and I start to feel uninspired. If it's 7 or 8 hours, magically, I just feel like a different person. So, of course, eating and sleeping, right?
Yeah. For sure. Like the emotional pint of ice cream every now and again is a good thing. But if you do that 2-3 weeks in a row, it's gonna take its toll, Do
you guys have specific meals that you cook whenever you're stressed? Like
100%.
There's one thing that I always cook. It's a Taiwanese beef noodle soup. If I'm feeling stressed, I know it tastes good and I know I love it, and it's just, I don't know.
Mary,
it's also
Mary,
very
can you
much
describe? Sorry, your mom used to make reminds you of
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Tell me, can you describe this Taiwanese beef noodle soup in detail? Because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, actually, Eric, have you had it? I think
I have had it. Yeah, it's fucking delicious.
Yeah, basically, you just make a broth, like a really, really beefy broth from letting beef soak in it with a lot of aromatics, ginger, spices, a lot of stuff like that, and then the broth becomes the soup that you then cook the noodles in. It's just very savory. It's extremely savory. It's
had a little kick to it too. It was fucking delicious.
Yes,
I'm dying
the key
right now.
To any stew or soup is putting in sweetness. So apples, fruit, anything like that, just a little bit makes it so much better.
Wow, I love that.
Beef. I'm really trying hard not to make a dick joke about beef noodle, but carry on.
Oh my God.
Before Eric makes this conversation turn entirely in the wrong direction. I make lasagna or chicken noodle soup at home.
Yeah.
Those are the feel good foods.
Yeah, my go-tos are the classic Italians. I grew up, my brother's family was all off the boat from Naples, and it's just, I make
you can make good meatball, right?
Oh, I don't mean to brag about my Italian cooking, but it's pretty fucking good.
So why haven't I had it?
The next time you come down to Philly, buddy, I'll make you some homemade pasta.
Yeah, you will.
I had it.
Nice red sauce and maybe the baddest meatballs you ever fucking try. So
let's schedule a date. Okay,
I got it.
With that, let's wrap up our discussion on stress. I think we've talked about a ton of solutions. It's no one size fits all. Obviously, different people gravitate towards different solutions. Now, let's do another segment. We want to keep the positivity rolling. So we named this our next segment. We named it "Fuck Money, I Did It for the Good Juju." That is our segment of the day. Fuck money, I did it for the juju.
It's also a good T-shirt. I'm just saying.
We have so many good T-shirts, like parting the kimono, Aloha Wood.
Aloha Wood's a classic.
What are some of the other? I swear there were 3 or 4 other T-shirts.
I mean, beef noodles now one of them.
Beef noodle soup.
No, don't ruin it for me.
All right. So what this segment is about?
So this means.
Fuck money, I did it for the juju. Yeah. So is Mary asking me to define it?
She absolutely is.
She's like, can you define that segment name?
Can you define
what
juju?
That means is, please tell me something you've done recently that doesn't make financial sense. You just did it because it made you feel good, or you thought the world needed it, and it doesn't have to make financial sense all the time. We can do things because it makes us feel good and it makes others feel good. So let's talk about.
Does this have to be woodworking related?
No.
Okay. All
right. I'll go first. I have one right on the tip of my tongue. So every year I get the feeling around. I don't know why. It's always in the same time of year too. Around fall. I don't know why. Maybe because fall feels so warm and cuddly, in New England.
It's definitely warm now.
Mm-hmm.
That is. I get this feeling like I want to put beautiful wood, like this natural resource that we have called wood, right? And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and I have so much amazing, resource in my shop. How can I get it in the hands of more people? How can I just because if I make these really ornate pieces that cost a lot of money, it's like a particular demographic gets it, and there's only one of them every month or every 2 months or every year or whatever, however long it takes a piece. What can I make that is quick turnaround that would get this beautiful, beautiful wood in the hands of more people and make them happy? And it shouldn't cost them a lot of money. So every year I get this thing in me around fall, and it happened again. 2 years ago, it was everyday trays I did. And then last year, it was art and nature boards, these big serving boards with like an architectural span under it, but beautiful veneers and wood on top. And I donated half the proceeds that year. And then this year is coasters. I decided to try coasters. I don't know why. And I've been making coasters for the last month. And I have a whole new design with cork inlaid into the bottom and the most unbelievable figured woods on top. And I've been just turning and burning, trying to get these out so that I can offer them. Like I was a low price point, what I think for the amount of work involved with a stand with like solid brass rod and matching wood on the stand, $50 for 4 coasters with
wow.
Cork and brass bar and the whole 9 yards, $50. Like, here you go. And that's my sort of good juju moment. Just trying to make it relatively low price point. So like people can enjoy the beautiful wood.
I love that as an idea of like, I want more people to have beautiful objects. This is a thing that I think about with some regularity of like, I need to be able to pay my bills, but I also want people who can't afford the high end stuff to have things that are beautiful and worth having in the house. It's an interesting way to approach that. Have you ever, out of curiosity, have you ever considered a sliding scale approach to an object like that?
I haven't. No. How would that work?
Well, like say you have so the reason this is in my head, like Larissa, there's a metal worker in our city that Larissa really admires and has one of their pieces, and just bought one from them a couple of weeks ago. And beautiful steel work. and they were like, the necklace is, I think it was $100, but you can pay between 70 and 120. And so like, if you can pay 120, then that helps offset the people who can only afford 70.
Oh, Eric, I love that.
You know what I mean?
I love that. And I've also thought about giving a few sets away for free. Like,
Sure,
but you
sure.
can't
And that
claim
helps
it you're for
offset
yourself. You have to give it away. You have to give it to
interesting.
someone. Yeah, I
Interesting.
thought a lot. Dude, if you have more ideas about like how to spread the good juju around like this, I'm all ears.
Okay. That's a thought.
All right.
Mary?
Mary, fuck money. I did it for the juju. What do you got?
So I have been, I've lived in this house for a year and I don't really have much of my artwork up. So I have been investing in artists that I feel really passionate about and finding pieces of theirs that I want to populate my house. So I want to fill my house with artists that I admire and also art pieces from friends as well. So I have a good amount from some friends, but also I'm just realizing like there's really cool artists on like Instagram that I keep finding, and I'm like, oh, like normally I just like look at their stuff and admire it and then don't ever think about purchasing it. But lately I've been like, you know what? I actually want that. And I do.
Oh, good for you,
like,
Mary.
I think that it's worth the investment. So one, I'm supporting them in their trade, but two,
That's
like
great.
I want to fill my house up with stuff that is really meaningful to me.
I love that answer.
Yeah. That's good. Like, supporting people is huge, and having objects around you that, again, like to what you were saying or what we were just talking about, like the things that bring you joy, that support other artists, like that's what else do you want to spend your fucking money on? Like that is the juju.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yep. All right, Eric.
I feel like I've been very financially responsible lately.
Oh, someone's bragging. Okay.
That's not a brag. Like, I was trying to think of something cool or weird that I've done lately, and I feel like I've just been
You bought the smoother.
I did buy the smooth. I was trying to think of something that wasn't work related. So I did buy an H&T Gordon smoother because I've wanted one for literally for a decade since I got my Dado plane. That's an H&T Gordon as a gift. And I was at the Hearn open house, and my buddy Leslie Webb, who owns Heartwood Tools, was over there, and she's a retailer of them. So I did buy one for myself, and it's fucking amazing, and I love it. But other than that, like, I don't know.
Don't worry, you're friends with me. I'll make you like go out to like a nice restaurant or something.
I mean, look, my girlfriend lives in Switzerland. Like, I spend enough money flying over there 4 times a year. Like, you know, there's not a lot of leeway for more financially irresponsible decisions.
All right, Eric, total swing and a miss.
Wow. Oh, okay. All right.
Come on, people love when you and I bicker like that.
People love when you fuck the segment, Eric.
People love when you and I bicker. On that note, we will not shine a light on Eric's lack of answer and go to our patrons. Thank you, Juan Gabriel Frere Lopez, Nick Sawyer, who I've had a few conversations with, Pro from Dover, Tony, and Rick, for signing up for our Patreon. Obviously, that gives you access.
Appreciate you guys.
It's totally. And I send messages all the time. Like, thank you, really, seriously, thank you for supporting us. It helps. We don't take it for granted. So with that, we hope that you enjoyed our show on stress. It's a universal topic. I feel like we explored it in a very vulnerable fashion. Mary, of course, you're like, stress is my middle name. And
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I never have stress. I am perfect.
And I think we covered a lot of possible solutions. Look, it's not going to be perfect. Even those solutions don't always work. We still backslide sometimes. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect about it, obviously. And with that, we're going to wrap today's show up, and we will see you
slide into the after show.
In the after show.
All right.
Oh, we can pull out to the after show.
Oh my goodness, she didn't say that. Bye.
You're so inappropriate, Mary.